everyone, Tiffany here from Tiffany Gordon Cosplay with another Tips video. This week's video is over how I made my Star Guardian Nico tail from League of Legends. The first step was to take in-game reference images of Nico's tail. Next, I made the template in Adobe Illustrator for the tail and the stars, and the template is available on my website, see the link below. Next, I printed out the template, taped it together, and cut out each piece with an Excel blade. I then traced out each template onto 4mm EVA foam, and then cut out with an Excel blade. When all the pieces of the tail were cut out, I then heat treated each one with a heat gun. I then applied contact cement glue to the edge of the EVA foam. Once dry, I attached the two edges together to create a ring. Working with 2 rings at a time, I applied contact cement glue to the outer edge of the rings. Once they were dry, I attached the 2 pieces together. I repeated this process until every pieces of the tail were attached in pairs. Again, I applied contact cement glue to the edge of the now paired pieces. Once they were dry, I attached the 2 pairs together to create a section of 4. I did this process until all of the pieces were attached to create one tail. For the stars, I used the original template and cut out for one star 5 individual pieces from 4mm EVA foam. For the triangle pieces of the star, I sanded them with a sanding drum at a 45-degree angle. I then scored each triangle piece with an Excel blade, making sure to only cut halfway through the EVA foam down the center. Next, I applied contact cement glue to the edges of the triangles and let dry. And then I attached the triangle pieces together. Once all the 4 triangle pieces were attached together, I attached them to the base star. I then heat treated the star with a heat gun. I repeated the same process to make all of the stars. I wanted to create an all-over texture onto the tail, so I used sanding paper on a sanding stick. Next, I traced the stars onto the tail with a silver Sharpie where I wanted to attach them. I then applied contact cement glue to the back of the stars and to the traced star location onto the tail. Once the contact cement glue was dry, I attached all of the stars onto the tail. Then I heat treated the entire tail again with a heat gun. For attaching the tail onto my body, I cut out a strap of leather and I also cut Velcro. I then traced the end of the tail onto 8mm EVA foam and cut out with an Excel blade. I then used a hot knife to burn 2 holes through the EVA foam the length that would fit the leather straps through, and heat treated it with a heat gun. Next, I attached the Velcro to the leather straps and then pulled the leather straps through the EVA foam holes. To attach this piece to the tail, I applied contact cement glue to the outer edge as well as to the inner edge of the tail. Once dry, I attached the 2 pieces together and rounded the edges with a sanding drum. To fill any unwanted cracks and seams, I used Quick Seal. I then applied 3 heavy coats of Plasti-Dip, making sure each coat was dry before the next. To prep for painting, I masked off all areas of the tail except for the stars. I painted the stars gold with airbrush paint. Once the paint was dry, I masked off the stars and also the bottom section of the tail with masking tape. I first started off with a base coat of white airbrush paint. I then airbrush painted the tail a gradient from purple, pink, red, pink, tan, orange, and then yellow. When the paint was dry, I removed the masking tape and then masked off all painted areas. I first started off with a base coat of light purple. and then added dark purple around the edges for details. When the paint was dry, I removed all of the masking tape. Unfortunately, there was a little bit of runoff paint, so I would have to do some touch-ups. For that, I used black acrylic paint that I applied by hand, and it ended up making the tail pop so much more. The final step was to apply a coat of satin clear enamel spray paint to the entire tail. And that is how I made my Star Guardian Nico tail from League of Legends. Thanks for watching this episode of Tips Tips Videos, and if you like this video, make sure to follow me on all of my social medias and to subscribe. Love ya!